Alrighty then.
And, and we're live.
We're here
on Lifting the Iceberg.
Hello.
Which is now being video recorded. And here I am with Spaddy, the first guest
What's
on the
up?
Lifting the Iceberg podcast.
How's it going?
It's going really great. I'm happy you're here. Happy to be here with you. And I'm excited to just hop on here and talk about what we're doing and what
we're doing something.
We're doing something. We're now recording these podcasts.
How many so far?
So when this one is released, it will probably be 24.
24.
Yeah, you're going to be episode 24.
4 plus 2 is 6.
Whoa.
Hexagon. 6 sides.
Like a
numerology
honeycomb.
wise. Yes.
Whoa. So we're going to get all drizzly and honey. We're going to get drizzly on this podcast.
Drizzly.
Drizzly.
It's going to get goopy.
It's going to get goopy.
It'll be sweet.
I want to talk about the evolution of lifting the iceberg and I want to talk about like what our experiences have been working together, kind of making this a reality. But now, I mean, let's just address the video recording this now. This is something that I've wanted to do for a while. I now have
Look at those
tech.
cameras.
I now have the tech to do it. And I think that a video portion is something that is really important for the podcast because it's more engaging. I think about the I think about the podcasts that I listen to, and I find myself watching podcasts, and I just really enjoy that. I like seeing facial expressions on the people
Body
who
language,
I'm seeing a dialogue
mannerisms.
between. Yeah. And I hope to kind of make more micro content, so to speak, out of these videos, like 60-second drops on Spaddy talking about
because I have so
the
much
future
to
of visionary
say.
art.
Let me say.
You do.
Well, and I think you do interview a lot of visionary artists, and we talk about, like in the first episode, we talked about the entire graphic, which is jam-packed with visual imagery, but we didn't videotape it. So unless somebody was looking at the image while listening to it, they probably had no idea what they were even visualizing. I think we tried our best.
We tried our best, and
be descriptive.
I guess I just thought, the graphic would be online in wherever whatever the delivery mechanism for the podcast was, whether it be like my WordPress site or Spotify or something, people would see the graphic. But Allison Gray actually gave me some really good advice on this podcast. She's like, Tyler, you're doing an art podcast. You need a visual element.
Yeah.
And
obviously
she said it to me in such a way where I was just like, duh, it's like, why did I wait? Of course,
step by step. Let's be
But now
real.
we're here, and I'm happy we're here.
We're here
and
we have
doing what we're doing.
Eyeballs that never blink, just staring at us and recording. And I am stoked about it. It's good to document.
Yeah. Now you are the graphic designer for the large enterprise that is Lifting the Iceberg. And it's been fun working together with you. And some of the things I've learned from that is trust you. Because I've realized that, I have a lot of my own ideas about how things should go, but I'm not a graphic design wizard. I don't know I'm not even a visual artist. I don't know what colors look good and what proportion to the light and all that stuff that you do on these graphics. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I have a really cool idea for a graphic, and I'll show it to you, and you're like,
just like, absolutely not.
No. And then I'm just like, at first it's like, oh, but I had like my creative investment in this idea. But then you make one, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's why I think it's been cool, because I now just like trust you with making a graphic.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you?
24 episodes later.
24 episodes later. 24 graphics later. That's crazy. Yeah.
No, it's been fun though. It's cool to see the diversity of people that you've had on your podcast, whether it was what was the name of the guy with the water
Water
podcast?
guy, James Sharcott.
James Sharcott and Raphael and
Zach
old professors, people
yeah.
from Temple, artists. I mean, it's been quite the array of unique conversations.
Yeah.
And so when you want to share that with the world, you got to present it and market it in a way that will, get people's attention. And I think that's why doing the video element now is going to be a perk. Like you said, kind of segmenting different parts of a conversation and sharing 1-minute segments. IGTV puts up to 10 minutes, so you can even give, a certain set of time for a certain topic, that a tangent that you may go down with an artist. And so with graphic design too, it's important to represent these interesting people the best way that we can. And I think we've been experimenting a bit, and I think it's cool that we are able to change some fonts around when we make a graphic, or change the visual element around. Instead of just showing a headshot of somebody, you show a droplet of water, because that's what a podcast could be about. You know what I mean? Or you have a topic on parkour. Instead of just a headshot, let's get an action shot of somebody doing a back tuck. That those are things that will be more eye-catching for people that are just, because the whole point is, if someone's on Instagram or Facebook or something and they're just scrolling along, you want to have something that will cause them to stop in their scrolling. And in my opinion, maybe I'm biased, but visionary art and just psychedelic art and well produced art always stops that's momentum of scrolling.
My favorite graphics that you've made for the pod, I love them all. My favorite ones are the ones that have a component of the Lifting the Iceberg graphic in it. Like Raphael's the first time he was on episode number 5, it was a headshot of him, but it was also the whole side was the Lifting the Iceberg. Or maybe another one is when Professor Tom Berentz was on my podcast. He's a professor of religion at Temple, and half the graphic was the part of the graphic that had all the different religious symbols in the honeycomb that leads into the path to the sun. And that was very, very cool for me, because that was directly relating one of the design elements of the graphic into the subject matter of a particular podcast, because that graphic it's an embodiment of my interests. It's a sigil that kind of holds the certain perspectives and angles and curiosities that I have. So it was cool. I think it's really cool when you combine those. Sometimes. And it's so juicy. It's so brilliant and colorful.
Yeah, it works sometimes. And then there's other times where, you'll have a photographer on, and I'd prefer to show them with a wash of an amazing landscape. I remember that was something, a point of
contention.
When we were doing the graphic for the photographer,
Genevieve Kim?
Yes, Genevieve. Her photos are amazing. And you wanted me to use Lifting the Iceberg, which I love. I mean, I made that image and I love it.
Because I had a profile picture of her, and I didn't really have one of her pieces of work. And you changed it to, what if we took the profile of her and used the background as a mix of her photography? Which
it's obvious that's what you would do.
It is obvious. And because I was just kind of locked into this idea of having the Lifting the Iceberg, and it's like, maybe it just became you got to shut it down. And you're really great at doing that. I mean, that's why you're so great at what you do, because you have a certain authority over it. You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I've been designing graphics for the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, Creative Sanctuary of Visionary Art, trans-denominational or non-denominational interfaith church. And we have a wide variety of events, from full moons to celestial gatherings to workshops to book talks to full day seminars on psychedelic peer support. I mean, it's very different, much like the conversations that you have with different people. Each person represents something unique about society or about culture, and so you want to make an image that has resonance with that, while in this case kind of still introducing the speaker. So incorporating a profile of someone's face, but then having a wash of their photography, because their photography is, usually well edited and image, and in my opinion, I always want to use the juicy stuff, because sometimes you get a headshot, it's like, that was taken on an iPhone. And so sometimes it works to put the iceberg graphic in it, but especially when you interview artists, you need to be showcasing their artwork, because that's what will pull people in. I mean, some people have a good face, but it's like, what are they bringing to the table? That's so exciting.
An example of that is the graphic for Alex Aliume.
Oh,
Remember we talked about that? It's like, but what if we just had on the left side, the lifting the iceberg, kind of like an outline almost. But then you're like, no, like you don't want anything else in the graphic to compete with his art.
His art speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. And that's why that's been cool. Kind of, that's what I've learned working with you, is kind of like releasing certain presuppositions and being open. And I think I'm a pretty open person. Would you say I'm fairly easy to work with?
Yeah, I would say so.
Cool. Because that's what I try to be.
And it's good practice for me to kind of break down your understanding of what you think something should be. Yeah. And kind of be like, hey, I think it would be most optimal if we went down this road. And I'm still learning too. And I think we can kind of continue to evolve the branding until we find a sweet spot. Yeah. Once you find something that works, though, it's good to kind of have a style sheet, essentially, is what you could call it. It's like the same thing with designing books. You want to have a style sheet. Each page kind of has a similar format, using the same fonts throughout. You have a header font, you have a body font, you have different colors that go. You can kind of have some creativity in between depending on what the page is. Like, I'm designing the 11th volume of the Cosmic Journal with Alex Nelson and Delvin Solkinson, and so he's been teaching me, they've all been teaching me a lot about branding and style, but also how to kind of put a visionary twist on it, where it's not just a stark white with black type 3-column magazine with a few pictures breaking up text. Those are good strategies to have, but how can we maybe make that white background a soft pink with a gradient overlay that kind of makes it glow, and make the header color of a article title kind of a color that you use an eyedropper out of a painting to kind of coordinate it all together. It's like a fashionista. They want to have the jacket that matches the shoes, maybe, and like splashes, or like an interior designer, you have an accent wall, and you kind of curate the space with color and obviously design. But
what are some things you've learned from the design eye of Alex Gray and Allison Gray, and some things you've learned from them that you've incorporated into your graphic design?
A few things. Keeping things with a nice margin around the perimeter. So you have a square 1x1 graphic that you use to promote a music event or something. You have a few lineup of musicians. You have the date of the event, the title of it, where to log in. Where to buy tickets. You want to kind of organize it in a way that it's breathable. You want to be concise. So if you're going to use type, you want to be super concise and to the point of what you're talking about, because, well, one, algorithmically, if you try to boost a post on social media and it's like 70 to 80% text, your boost is not going to go well compared to just a simple image with maybe a watermark of the organization you work for or something like that. So keeping those things in mind, that's sort of the strategy in regards to maximizing on a promotional advertisement. But also, really with type, just making it breathable. If you're going to overlay type on top of art, don't put type across somebody's forehead or, Alex's work is a lot of anatomy, and it makes me cringe when I look back at some of my older graphics I made when I first started working there. But just being mindful of, say it's an image of two people embracing one another, you don't want to just slap
words,
Comic Sans font over top of their chest. You know what I mean? And it's not tasteful. And so finding a way to kind of finding those pockets of texture. If say you have a headshot of somebody for the iceberg podcast, you want to, and you see a little bit of a sky in the background or something, you put the text there. You don't put it on their body. And also following kind of the method of recently is kind of a 3-column method. So if you use guide marks in a software program like InDesign or Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator too, you follow these guide marks. You know where the center point is. You know where the center point is both vertically and horizontally, and you kind of grid it out almost maybe to like a 6-block grid to place text in a certain way. Maybe offset the image to the right a little bit. You know what I mean?
I'm sure you don't purposefully do this, but I bet that as you've become better at graphic design, what looks right to you, you could map the Fibonacci spiral onto.
Maybe.
You know, because
I don't go that deep. I don't got that kind of time.
Perhaps
but
what
painting,
looks good to you is that kind of fundamental architecture that just looks good to the human eye.
There's, like in any work of art, there's a harmonious moment that happens where you've been saturating, and then it reaches a point of, okay, here it is. I got it. And you can stop, or you can maybe adjust some color at that point. I mean, I kind of work in a step-by-step process where, say I'm making an advertisement for an upcoming event, slap some art on there. For Cosm, at least, Alex and Allison have so much work to play with, which is an honor. And all the artists that have workshops, I get to use their art, which is so cool. You slap a narrative piece of artwork on there that kind of alludes to the title of the class or the event. Have the other side have some text, slap all that on there, and then once you have your imagery kind of in place, you have the text sort of centered, or right justify, left justify, whatever you're working with in that moment, then I go in with, what should the font be? Okay, that font works. I like that. That feels right. Okay, so what colors do I want it to be? I don't want it to just be black, or I don't want it to just be white because it's getting lost behind the text. Can I add like a glow behind that text? What color would that be? How does that relate to the color of the text itself or the logo? Oh, okay, this is all looking good, but I want to kind of encapsulate it. Can I make a border, a feathered border that kind of draws your eye into the center? Are there things that I can do that keep the energy fixed on the ad itself?
It draws the eye.
Or the promotion.
So it's like, what you're doing is really kind of, you're inviting attention to a particular piece of art. So, and there's multiple levels to that. So when someone is just scrolling through their timeline, you want the whole thing to be attractive, kind of like on a macro level, like just a explosion of colors that catches the eye. But then once the eye is on the graphic, you want to guide their eye towards the actual information, whether it be a workshop at a certain date and time with whichever artist. You're just helping invite eyeballs to the point of most substance, I guess, and you're doing that through art. I love a great example, if anyone kind of has looked through some of the graphics for Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, you'll use like a piece of Alex's art, which Alex very much so works with figures, and Allison works with patterns. And what you do is you'll have maybe a piece of Alex's art, whether it be a Flow Fridays graphic, Alex's painting of someone spinning fire, and then the background will be Allison's patterns, because text looks a lot better with a patterned backdrop than a figured backdrop. You know, that's an example of.
Well, and I like to honor both of them too, you know, and so sometimes
their work works so well together.
Yeah, and I think I really try to think about that when I'm making a graphic, because yes, Allison's work works really well on textiles. It works well as a pattern for a backdrop, but sometimes I'm like, I'm always putting text over her art. You know, it needs to. How can I have text over over part of her art, but then leave some space so people can see the chaos in the background, or can. I've been enjoying doing, like a border of secret writing around the image, because again, I really think her work is valuable and should be seen, and it's mysterious. You look at Alex's work and it's like, oh, that painting is obviously called Kissing because it's two people kissing. You know what I mean? But then you have this chaos, order, secret writing,
realms of the unpronounceable
blanket kind of within an image or within the graphic, and people are like, what's that? I mean, I've posted it before on Chapel's page of a graphic that has secret writing in it, and people are like, what is that in there? I've seen that before, you know? And so I think that it's important to represent both of them
for sure,
as equally as possible. And I'm grateful that I've been able to kind of play with their work, and Allison, because her work is abstract, I've done a few, color overlays and things like that. And she's really open to it. And I try to show it in its purest form while also making it a dynamic piece of promotional material. And so it's fun. I'm really grateful that I got to work with their work I studied printmaking in school, and I minored in business, and I worked a little bit in Photoshop with silkscreen printmaking, because you can kind of make a drawing, or you can even create an image on Photoshop Illustrator. And then there's different functionings that you use to break an image up into 4 channels: cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And you print these transparencies out based on their color, and then you put it, it's a whole printmaking process. And that's how, classic rock concert posters, all the old Dead posters, the Woodstock, all of those amazing works of art, that's how they're traditionally printed. And that fascinated me. I mean, I would love to make more concert posters.
Yeah.
Fish, if you're watching, I'm your girl.
Trey.
No, their concert posters are so cool.
Yeah,
I am very inspired. But so I got some basic Photoshop experience just so that I could. I used to be so anti-tech. Actually, I really never liked Photoshop, Adobe. I thought it was a total cop out. I thought it was you're cheating. And well, I've changed my mind significantly. Since then.
How? Because now I'm
more digital. I'm
now
more
you're more
digitally
digital than
inclined
analog.
than I mean, I love to paint, but I think, well, for me, in some ways, I found that I can serve my community and serve the world more effectively if I focus my mind on design. While I love to paint and people find resonance in the artwork that I make, and while the Lifting the Iceberg image, for example, was a really cool breakthrough for myself as an artist, there's some amazing painters out there that need a book. I can design that. There are some amazing festivals and social gatherings that need some top-notch promotion. Quality graphics. There's some podcasts out there that could use some design help if they're a one-man band. You know what I mean? And I think that is more of an offering that has a larger impact than just being a painter. So that was a kind of a shift in my perspective since really working at Cosm and doing graphic design for them. Plus I was in an environment where I wasn't just creating a design, an ad for some shitty pharmaceutical company. I was using some of the most badass artwork of our day, contemporarily speaking, to invite people to come to a place like Cosm where they can talk about important subjects while also seeing art as a form of where words can't go. So it's Cosm special in that way. And so
and you were able to kind of use that art and kind of use the art in that whole sphere to kind of work on your craft and graphic design again too. It's like, this is something the world needs. And there's that saying, your vocation lies at the intersection of your passions and your talents and the world's needs. So it's like, part of being a successful artist is arguing that the world needs your art.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to do that if you're a graphic designer or a digital artist, because beer cans need art on the outside. Like, how many times have you bought a can of beer because of the beautiful art on the outside?
I mean, I bought this turkey jerky today because it had like a nice matte. It was very nice and clean.
You don't want to judge a book by
turkey.
Its cover, and there is such thing as greenwashing. Just because a package is green doesn't mean it's healthier, but a graphic can be enticing.
And sometimes you just look at something, you don't really have the intent on buying it, but like for myself, I'll look at a billboard and be like, oh, that aesthetically pleased me looking at that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when I watch commercials. I'm like, Coca-Cola, I don't like you at all. I think you taste terrible unless there's whiskey in it. But that was a great ad.
Put a few cute polar bears in there. Oh.
Yeah, or whatever. They got like cool visuals of bubbles of soda. You know what I mean? They're totally tapping into that sort of market. And so I'm like, all right, Coca-Cola, I hand it to you.
But when does it
I won't drink you, but it's well designed.
When does it just become well designed propaganda?
Well, isn't it like all kind of propaganda? I mean,
maybe techniques for influence, and it's just, is your heart in the right place while you're engaging in that form of influence? I would say, I mean, that's why you just said that you'd rather work with Alex and Allison's art than make graphics for a pharmaceutical company.
Or it's like Cambridge Analytica that has like lock her up with handcuffs as the graphic. As the thing, you know what I mean? Like, plus those looked like crappy ads anyways. You know, I didn't like the font choice. So, I think that's the tricky thing with advertising and marketing, is that it's a really hard job if you don't believe in what you're creating to get people to buy or partake in. And I believe in COSM, and I believe in the workshops we hold and the offerings that we have. So I'm going to go above and beyond to do my best to make an image or a graphic that is welcoming.
You're doing work that COSM needs in order to bring art out into the world that the world needs. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, I would argue that the world needs the sacred mirrors. The world needs the art that is going to be inside of Entheon.
Yeah, Alex and Allison did all the hard work. I just modge-podge their art together and slap some text on it and get people stoked.
But you need to, now we live in the digital age where you need to have, like, you need to be able to disseminate information over the internet in a efficient and effective way, and graphics are the best way of doing that.
Debatable, I would say.
Other than maybe, well, it depends on the medium, maybe, because I'm excited about doing short videos as a way of promoting this podcast. Right. I think that might be even better than just a juicy graphic.
I think that whenever I post, because I do the social media for COSM, if I post even if it's a well-designed graphic, which I think I do a decent job on, still learning, but you know, for a celestial celebration, which is one of our top 4-5 different big events, I can post a graphic that has Oversol on it, some cool lineup of DJs and some celebratory looking text, but it won't perform as well if I just, versus posting an image of a live painter that will be at that event. Yeah. Just the image and its solidarity, that will get thousands and thousands of likes and comments, versus posting a graphic that gets not even 1,000, because that's kind of our average is at least I try to hit 1,000 likes for engagement and whatnot.
That gives me hope, because that makes me feel like there's still an organic element to social media. If it's the organic,
and we're a nonprofit organization, so there's only so much that we can invest into our online marketing, though it's very important. Yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is, at least in the visionary art world, when you post art just as is, instead of slapping text on it, it performs better. And that's why I really am kind of starting to get excited about print media and, you know, designing posters and flyers, things that people want to keep and hang on their wall. You know, we have flyers for Cosm. It's got art on the front, and on the back it has information about orienting generalities or celestials, and so it has the information, but on the front they can, you know, put it on their fridge. They can look at it. It's free.
Yeah.
And with a book, it's more permanent. You know, you publish a book, you print a book, and it's something tangible in somebody's hands, and they can look at that artwork. It's not on a screen. That's the stuff that I'm starting to become even more interested in.
Yeah.
I feel like it has a little bit more of an effect. It feels a little more official.
For sure.
I'm like, oh, I designed a book.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing to say. I never thought I was going to do it.
It's physical.
I haven't designed a book yet. I'm in the process of my first Cosm journal. But
it's funny. I've come to a lot of lessons trying to kind of create my own graphics for Lifting the Iceberg. At first, I've kept them on the Instagram page just because, like, I'm always going to look back and laugh. But I thought it would be cool to have a piece of art and then have it be opaque in a certain color, and then have text that relates to that piece of art over top of the art, where like the art is actually just kind of like in the background lurking, and the art is kind of like shining through that particular message. And that's all very lofty and interesting way of thinking about it.
It can be successful for some people.
Yeah, but then I was like, okay, I don't want to have text over art. I just want to. The point is to share art in the way that it was meant to be seen. And that's why now on Lifting the Iceberg, I post my favorite pieces of art. And then in the captions, I'll post a quote that I feel like I wanted to share with that piece of art.
That's smarter.
That's smarter because I don't want to, it's, a lot of what happens in the social media world is bullshit, with people reposting other people's art and like kind of draping over their own content on top of it. Who was it that kind of gave an epic rant on that? Like, was it Crystallize who said like she noticed people reposting her paintings with their like tag on it?
That's what I mean. And
that's kind of,
it's not your artwork. It's not even your quote.
Yeah. It's not even my quote. I'm
so
just
you're
curating
just taking an image and putting like magenta over top of it and using a type to well, and memes work for some people, you know, like MAPS, for example, their Instagram, the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, their Instagram is interesting. They have a lot of text, but their posts perform well because that's kind of more their style anyways. They're sharing little snippets of an article or an update on their clinical trials for MDMA and psilocybin, and they have a job offering, or they have a meme. It works for them, and it can work. But for artists, I've seen it work better when you just let the art talk and you have a caption underneath. And then you credit the artist. Yeah. Or
credit the artist. That's a whole thing.
Yeah. Or if we're promoting a workshop or something, you have the carousel feature where you're just swiping to the left to see. So you introduce a few beautiful eye-catching images, and then the last one is the graphic that says come to this workshop. Like artist spotlight, Randall Roberts, Morgan Mandela, show them art, and then show their art, and then maybe have the graphic at the end. I've found to be more interesting because those are the people you want to target anyways, or the ones that will keep scrolling through or swiping through rather, because they're engaged. Like, wow, that one's good. Wow, that one's really good. Wow, that one's amazing. Who are these people? Oh, they're having a workshop. Like you are allowing for time to unfold for the person to kind of get sucked into, which kind of sounds weird and manipulative, but the art's usually so amazing, and the workshop is even more beneficial to an aspiring artist. So it's interesting. Strategy's interesting.
For me, I love the idea of kind of having a post with multiple pictures that you swipe through, and then you get a collective vibe from all those pictures that tells you more about what it's promoting. For my Instagram, I've been really trying to share pieces of art that have a certain narrative element to it, because that's kind of what the theme for this podcast is. Like, art is not just something that looks nice that you hang in your living room. Like, I'll post some really amazing pieces of art that kind of get people thinking about art, hypothetically get them thinking about art in the same way that I'm thinking about art. Like, each one of these paintings or whatever medium it is, it's a slide from underneath the microscope looking into the human mind.
Yeah.
You know, and I want the whole page. I want people to be able to scroll down the page and kind of see this art as a curated gallery. And so that's kind of been one of my goals as of now.
Well, and I feel like you share artwork that, at least in my world, I've never personally seen before. You see a lot of the same artwork circulating around because they're amazing images.
Yeah,
like
I try
Alex's work or Autumn's work.
I try to find something new. I also try to share the art of the people who came on my podcast. And
I think that is most important.
That's most important because like I love sharing one of Karen's paintings, and because now someone can look at that painting and just be amazed by it, and then they can see, oh, you can listen to episode number 11 with Karen where she actually talks about that painting. Like, that's what the podcast is about. It's about letting people hear the words of that are behind the images that they would only otherwise see. So I want to kind of create, with Lifting the Iceberg, a network that helps bring everyone up.
That's what social media is meant to do. And everyone's using it in the most irresponsible and inappropriate way possible. I mean, you and I just watched that documentary on Netflix, The Great Hack, and you know, people could say it's a little left-leaning of a biased documentary, but at the core of it, it's like, why do we have social media, and why are we letting it? Why are we serving it rather than it serving us? And I have social media because I have cool art and friends and things that I want to share, but it's used in such a negative way now. You know, like the best AdWords to invest in are hate speech, and negative words are the words that people want to invest in because it'll get more exposure.
Outrage drives engagement, and
I think that that's ridiculous because I've also have shared videos of you doing backflips and people are like, holy moly. Yeah. That's insane. And they love it and they're engaged with it. And or videos of artists doing time lapses.
It can be positive too.
Totally. And I thank God that you are seeing the responsibility you have in a light that is positive and informative, because a lot of people are just on there to be a troll. The trolls are the worst. I'm sorry. This is a public service announcement. You guys need to chill out. And girls and grandmas and dogs. They don't even know that they're on there. But there's cats and dogs on, and like lizards and horses and baby goats that are on. They have bigger followings on social media than actual people.
Eggs. Do you know the egg?
But they're pretty fun. Cats and dogs.
Yeah.
There's some cute cats out there in the world, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is a thing on social media. And what is that doing for people? Hopefully it inspires them to maybe get a cat or dress their dog up in a funny outfit and do photo shoots. Be creative, maybe. Maybe inspires creativity.
Doesn't always have
I'll
to
have
be
that over hate speech.
Yeah, I like stupid memes sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to inspire me.
Memes are
great. Memes are great, and you can learn a lot about, like, maybe I'm going deep about something that I just said I enjoy when it's not really that deep, but memes are signals of the ideological ecosystem of our time, or maybe an ecosystem on one side or one spot of the spectrum of thought. But it's like sometimes you see a flood of memes come after Andrew Yang's mic was turned off at the DNC debates, and then you see like a bunch of Let Yang Speak memes, and you're like, whoa, this is like, people are upset about this, and I know because I see the memes. The memes are like the subterranean thoughts rearing their
Yeah, but then you run into these organizations that are putting really untrue. Again, going back to your question, when does it become like propaganda? Because
it becomes
there are some really annoying memes out there that trigger people, and then they share it, and I just look at it like I have nothing to say. You know, it's like it's like this weird gut-wrenching feeling where I'm just like, why are you sharing that? And now all you did was share a thing, and now somebody in your friends is going to comment on it. You probably haven't talked to them since elementary school, but for whatever reason you're still friends with them because you got on Facebook in 8th grade, and
all of a sudden they disagree.
Now all of a sudden they disagree, and it's going to ruin your whole day because you posted one thing that you didn't really know. I mean, I fall victim to that where I've posted like a George Carlin quote, and it became a good discussion, but I was just like, oh, I just want to. I mean, then that's the responsibility of a person on social media. Is like, oh, I posted that thing. I should expect that people are going to respond with their opinion, and their opinion's valid. But I'm just like, oh shit, this isn't what I wanted to do. I should have just shared that goat meme. I just should have shared that smoothie cat. I should have just
the pug with a little birthday hat on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just should have done that. Except share George Carlin, one of the greatest comedians of all time.
But at the
God
same
forbid
time, you
I
need
do that.
At the same time, you need to speak your truth.
George Carlin's the man.
George Carlin speaks the truth, and that's the role of the comedian. It's like it's almost like you're not a good comedian unless you're offending someone.
What does Mike Birbiglia say in one of the specials? He's like, okay, I know jokes offend his delivery is hilarious. He's like, I know jokes offend people, but they're going to be offensive to someone.
Yeah.
And he like has this whole joke about how he can't eat peanuts on a plane because like the nuts are in the air. It's his favorite rap song, Nuts in the Air. It's hilarious.
And the woman is offended by peanuts.
Well, and he's like, there's one of you
or man.
He's like, there's probably 1% of you in this crowd right now that is allergic to peanuts, and I'm sorry, and it's really funny for the rest of us, but that one person's probably going, it's my life. It's like, it's so funny.
Yeah,
His delivery's great. Because I think with comedians too, they can be kind of cold. Like, if you think of a classic comedian, they just are super apathetic and nihilistic, and they're kind of, they use their trauma that they've experienced growing up as a means to relate to people who are also dealing with similar trauma, but it's not really, and it's funny because it's like, oh, I'm not alone. There's a sense of universality in your delivery, but like, where's that positive uplifting moment, you know? And that's why I love Reggie Watts. Like, I don't know if he considers himself a comedian because he's kind of like a multimedia entertainer, but he's so creative and he speaks truth and it's hilarious. I laugh so hard when I watch him. And he's not being this grungy, dark force. He's quite the opposite.
Definitely not all comedy has to be that. And I think that I mean, I'm really into the role of the comedian. I'm interested in the role of the artist in society, but the comedian, like, they really are the people who can speak the truth. And it's because, well, partly
they got balls.
Yeah. The shadow side of the wise old man archetype is, according to Jung, is the trickster. The trickster and the wise old man are an archetypal dichotomy. And I think that's really brilliant because there's always one of my favorite books, Peaceful Warrior, Dan Millman's mentor Socrates is an embodiment of the wise old man who tricks this boy into enlightenment. It's like there's an element of joke and comedy and the trickster aspect to genius and wisdom. And also in the Middle Ages, the jester was the one person in the kingdom who could say whatever they wanted to, and the king could not execute the jester because in a way the jester was too lowly for the king to execute. And it's like, a kingdom is falling into rubble when the king executes the jester, because that means the king can no longer bear the truth, and the king has become, rather than the noble leader, the noble king, he's become the tyrant, that's another other archetype, the noble king and the tyrant. But the jester, the comedian, it's like the immune system for the kingdom. It's like, what did everyone make jokes? Every comedian in the fucking world made jokes about Trump when Trump got elected.
Oh, I'm so tired of it.
That got old, but didn't it seem like an immune response?
Yeah, you could consider that. I also see it as like a cop out to write shitty comedy.
It was too easy.
You know what I mean?
It was low hanging fruit.
You're literally all out of ideas and you're going to just talk about Trump. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's so much wonder in this world and hilarious hypocrisy and funny things that happen to everyday people that you can talk about. Mm-hmm. And you can slide a Trump, like a little Agent Orange joke in there if you want, I guess. But if somebody's like full 5-minute bit is to talk about somebody that we're trying to kind of transmute and purge out, immune response, it sounds like we're not taking care of our body. You know what I mean? Like,
and it sounds like Trump is a virus. And it's like, I don't like saying things that bring people apart. And it's like,
that's what I'm saying. If I'm an artist or a comedian, I mean, I'll share like Andrew Yang content because I find him to be fascinating. He's somebody that's running for president. But I think ultimately what's beautiful about art and music and comedy is that it can bring people together. And it also can show things that are bad, like Exodus by Bob Marley. That's a great song, and it's not a like let's get together and feel all right, which he has that too. It's like talking about a movement, and artists create a lot. Political cartoonists. Those are great ways for people to understand a perspective. But I don't know if I want to be a comedian or an artist. I don't know. I'd like to leave that at the door. It's like the same thing with working at an organization like COSM. I never want to give COSM. It's actually illegal to have a political opinion as an organization.
Well,
I don't think it's necessary.
Not all comedians have to be political, and I think that COSM is deeper than the political level. Like not everything is political. Sometimes there's maybe there's the political, the social, economic, but then there's the psychological, but then there's the theological, but then there's the substrate that transcends all of that, the inner self, and then that's when you get into more esoteric philosophies. And it's like there's different levels of analyzing reality, and you can be a comedian that looks at the political level and analyzes that and plays the role of the comedian in that way. Or you can kind of look at a deeper level and kind of apply the same structure.
Well, and that's what you hope. I think that's something that's getting lost with social media. While it's this tool that, kind of going back to the social media thing, like while it's this tool that is meant to, like Facebook is meant to be a community builder. That's why you have Facebook groups and you have, different sort of subgroups aside from just your friend group. I follow an account called Addicted to Fish because I'm a huge fish fan, and it's the best.
What an
echo
chamber.
Good thing about Facebook, and it's funny, but I feel like social media kind of causes us to not go through that scan of what you were kind of just talking about before of
analyzing on all levels. Yeah,
because it's this thing that's right in front of your face, and it's rewarding because you can respond to it and people will react to your response and things. You can share it and or whatever. And I hate to see that get lost because we're a lot smarter than we think.
Yeah. And it's been important for me to try to be humorous on this podcast because I think I get...
you can't. You just have to be serious.
Be serious the whole time.
And talk in monotone the whole time. And you have to not excite people at all. That's how you keep them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Spoken from COSM's social media manager. Yeah. Just be boring.
Just be boring and you'll succeed. No, actually, humor is a huge one.
Yeah, and I think, kind of one of the themes of this podcast is, critiquing myself and my progress, and just looking back on the podcast in general. And I think that listening back to some of my podcasts, I think that I can get serious but it's
Which is
only
good.
because I'm curious. Like I'm.
Well,
I'm
you're
really,
stoked. You're
and I'm
jazzed
stoked,
about it.
and I'm
You like
jazzed,
want
and I
to
try to
get
be
you
enthusiastic.
want to get down to brass tacks. You're like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah.
I'm stoked. I'm hype.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish that I could keep up with that because I'm just like, woo, like the sky's blue. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know, let's
Yeah.
not talk about abortion today. Like, let's
Yeah.
just go swim.
Yeah, for sure.
Though both things are important.
Yeah.
It's like a balance is always the key.
Mhm.
Everybody's trying to balance,
Mhm.
trying to get their inner Libra on.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
I think my
And-
goal ultimately is to communicate the ideas that I'm interested in and I feel that are important in a way that also makes other people interested and excited about them and makes them feel like they're important.
Well, you gotta just stoke people out, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's why one of the things is just like, I just want to speak from a place of utmost authenticity and truth, because Terence McKenna said that if the truth can be said so as to be understood, it will be believed. And my job in this position is to kind of speak my truth, so I can figure out what my truth is.
Yeah.
What do I know about my truth?
Right.
Speaking about what it might be helps me think about it, and I'm thinking publicly, but I also want to think in such a way that maybe helps some people get pulled along for the ride on certain issues.
Yeah, just like you're like what's that machine, the little tool you use to light up a Bunsen burner?
Oh,
Like the people are the Bunsen burners,
Yeah.
and you're just like
the flint.
the flint,
Yeah.
just to like spark them and get them
Sparking.
going.
Yeah.
Even if the flame isn't as hot as it could be,
Yeah.
at least you're like getting it going and getting
Yeah.
it started.
It's funny, like
That's an important role to play.
I've put out 2 podcasts.
Don't you fuck up now.
I put out 2 podcasts with parkour athletes, and my friend
Yeah.
Josh Hampson listens to the podcast, and
Josh.
Josh, shout out to Josh,
My man.
the fluffy rock.
Yeah.
And he says that, like, Tyler, you know, I listened to that podcast with that parkour guy. It was really inspiring, but I am never going to do parkour. It's like,
Yeah.
I really champion it. I talk about parkour in a way, everyone should do parkour. Really, my message with that is everyone should play.
Everyone should play.
But it's funny, some people go, like, I'll talk big about parkour, and some people will just go, like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And I get it. Hey, I probably...
I think they're scared.
They're scared. Well, there's plenty of people who don't want to paint, even no matter how much they hear people talk about painting. The goal is not the particular medium, and that's why I'm taking steps back. The goal is to be creative and to have that expression and to have that way of interfacing with yourself.
Yes, I would say I took a few art therapy classes in school, and there is a spectrum, at least in art therapy, there is a spectrum of mediums that you want to look at in regards to people who have personality disorders, like somebody who's suffering, or maybe not suffering, but somebody who is dealing with schizophrenia. You don't want to give them watercolors. You don't want to give them oil paint or paint because it's too loose, and they're
Maybe
all
some Legos.
Okay, yeah, you could give them some Legos, but in regards to like give them some Legos. Yeah, you could. But I mean, like, from the spectrum of one side being pencil and ink, sturdy, you have more control over it, versus the other side, which is charcoal, which is messy, watercolor, acrylic paint.
There's levels of structure.
There's levels of structure, and based on somebody's mental stability, you don't want to just say, go find any medium you want. You can encourage that, but there is, within like a organized setting, you want to provide them with a medium that
one moment.
is good for
What
them.
was that? The phone died?
This
This one's
just
live.
in.
Oh, this just
Our
in.
phone died. The phone died. Yes, it did. Oh, well, we could close it out.
That's okay.
Well, here, come here. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Well,
No, here we go. I have an idea.
Keep the video, yeah.
just put that there. and we'll say this just in.
That's a nice edit. Easy. Tyler, just mark it at 1 hour.
Wow, thanks for bringing that up.
Well, we can close it soon if we're at an hour. I don't even know what we just talked about.
And we're back after a little bit.
Just like sitting like a.
And we're back after some technical difficulty.
Hello, we're back.
So yeah, now we
Camera
kind of
died.
switched frames. But we've been covering ground. I
Yep.
just wanted to bring up, just things we've learned from lifting the iceberg, things we've learned from being a creative couple. You know, I
think we're doing okay.
I think we're doing okay.
I think I can be pushy and you can be pushy, and that's good for innovation. You know what I mean?
That brings us both to a new place.
Well, and I think, with this podcast, all I ask is that you remember the responsibility that you have to share information into the world. There's a lot of unnecessary information out there, and I think you're a gold mine. I think the people that you have on this podcast are brilliant. And so I hope, and I know really, that it will continue to be that, and that's how it will sustain itself.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to make a graphic or two or provide marketing advice. I'm still learning too. So somebody might go on the Instagram and be like, those graphics look like shit.
Well, I'm
Which
happy.
they could be better, but we're growing. And I think that it's exciting that we have this platform to discover that.
Yeah. And I'm happy to get your voice out there too. I think that.
Here's my voice.
Yeah. I think you have some really amazing perspectives on things, and I look forward to you making more appearances on the podcast in the future.
Well, I look forward to it.
Yeah.
We'll keep it funky fresh.
Yeah.
We'll lift that big old iceberg. It is a big boy.
It's a big boy.
Yeah.
But we're going to lift it.
We're lifting it.
Mm-hmm.
Well.
So with that
said, this podcast has been brought to you by Turkey Jerky. Hickory Smoke. PSA, don't eat the silica gel.
Yeah.
Because you will probably not make it.
Mm-hmm. But the rest is delicious. Look at the
Turkey
graphics on that.
jerky.
Yeah. All right, Alexa, thank you so much. Cheers.